how to deal with loneliness, how to become more social. This was the question. My attitude towards loneliness has evolved over the years. At least from my 20s to my 30s, it definitely has changed. And it's made me think that loneliness is an attitude towards being alone. And that if you're okay with being alone, you aren't really lonely. Does that make sense? You aren't lonely if you enjoy being alone. If you actually love being alone, then you wouldn't describe it as loneliness. Loneliness is usually a feeling or a mood that results from you not enjoying the fact that you're alone. I think that's mostly the case, even though you might also get cases where you love being alone, but you're still kind of lonely. Maybe that's me. That's kind of interesting. But anyways, let's dive into that. Why is it that we feel lonely, and how has at least my disposition towards loneliness changed over the years? So, a little bit of backstory time. I grew up in Korea, and my earliest memories of childhood, like before primary school and during primary school, were always filled with other kids, other friends. So many. There were troops of us playing hide and seek in the streets, then football all the time in primary school. After school, we were chilling. It was constant. And I think it's really important to spend childhood like this. But it's kind of a double-edged sword, I feel. It's really important for kids to play with other kids because they develop a lot of things: social skills, empathy, a sense of morals and ethics and fairness, and all of these things that get developed. You absolutely, if you have kids, should get them to play with other kids. But the downside is that because I've always had a friend or multiple friends up, like by my side, when they're not there, you start to seek company and you start to feel lonely. As opposed to kids that grew up lonely in a way. Loneliness was the default. Like, they didn't have a lot of friends to hang around with from the beginning. They're actually maybe more equipped to handle their loneliness, but sometimes they might have a certain, a certain mood about them, a certain melancholy about them because they didn't have a lot of that social play engagement in that critical period of childhood. But I digress. That's a whole new topic. But in any case, I was in the former. I was the kid I was sort of, it's weird to say it myself, but I was fairly popular in primary school in Korea. So there were always kids all the time. So, and this was the case also when I came to the UK and I went into boarding school. There was always a dude who was like my best friend at every period of my life. This dude was called Philip. And Philip would be in my room. We'd be chatting. He'd be telling me about Peter the Great and history, and because he was really good at history. We were playing games, Dota, and everybody used to hang around my room to play video games and chat shit. Just like it was in Korea. And then university, masters, PhD, all the time. So I'm that guy that when there isn't somebody there with me, like a best friend or somebody to just be with, I would feel like something is off. And I would feel lonely. I don't think I ever said the word like I'm lonely. It's weird for me to even say it now, but I definitely felt like, oh, I'd rather have somebody here. You know that feeling? Like, I'd rather this be with somebody. And this carried out throughout the whole of my 20s. And if you add the layer of girls and dating and significant other into this equation, it gets even more pronounced because Like friends, you have friends, like dude friends and just friends. But if you have a girlfriend and you have that kind of connection and you're spending all your time together and then you break up and she's no longer there, it's like the biggest, what the hell? Something's wrong. I need it back. I need something like that back, at least. So, so that's maybe why we feel lonely. We some of us are used to being with the whole time. Of course, the first thing we know is to be with, right? When we are born, we are already with. So, in not to get all philosophical, but there's this guy in German philosophy called Heidegger, and he talks about what it means to be human a lot, a bit too much. And one of his main ideas is this very idea called being with, that humans are always with. That's how we understand ourselves. That's how we are from the moment that we're born. The moment we're thrown into the universe, everything makes sense in relation to other humans. Everything is understood with those things as a given, right? So, loneliness, what am I trying to say? You that asked me about loneliness, you are human. Okay, sorry to give such a weird answer, but it's such a human thing. There's nothing wrong with you. It just means you're human, and that's why you feel lonely, right? Cause this table don't feel lonely. I don't think certain insects feel lonely. I think maybe some animals feel lonely, but that's only what we can think about. I mean, be many people would argue that animals don't really feel loneliness. Maybe certain developed animals do, but it's a distinctly human thing. There's nothing wrong with you. Now we get on to the question of how to deal with it, right? How do you deal with loneliness? That was the question. Dealing with loneliness. Instead of dealing with loneliness like in like this tactical way, which is obvious, right? You've heard those tips like go join your social like clubs and go out to a club and like meet people, like join a tango class, like all that stuff you've already heard. I'm not going to talk about that. But I'm going to tell you how to deal with loneliness by telling you how my attitude towards loneliness has changed as I turned into my 30s. Now, so I told you about my 20s, right? But when I was around 29 to 30, I started making content, and it's something that took a lot of courage on my side to do because I had to quit my PhD. I was in the military. Many of you have heard the story. It was a big step for me. But when I started doing it, and especially when it started like picking up, like the fitness content and stuff, I felt like, okay, this is my window of opportunity to really do something that I wanted to do, which is to create content and coach people. And when I found this thing that I wanted to do that aligned with my purpose and my desires, I started focusing on it hard. I was working a lot. I was working into the night. I was thinking about work as I went to sleep. I was waking up excited to design these workout routines that I would give away for free and script and design the next video. Even the editing that seems so tedious to me now is like I was like waking up to enjoy that. I was in that zone, right? And let me tell you, all the like dating apps, searching for friends, trying to find events with friends, trying to make things happen socially, all of that by the way, I was like very, very keen on, disappeared. It just like went into the back because I had a bigger thing that was driving me. This is the secret to overcoming not only loneliness, but procrastination. Now, I haven't closed the loop. There's a downside to this, so don't think that I've given the full answer yet. So, to continue the story, when I found something that I could dedicate my whole energy to, not only did I not feel lonely, I felt empowered by the fact that I was alone. Because I was so codependent. I always thrived with people and talking to people. But now, I almost didn't want to talk to them. I didn't want friends to text me. I didn't want to talk to friends because I didn't want their feedback, because I knew they would say something that might affect how I think about my situation, right? So I just wanted to be in this bubble. I didn't want it to be infiltrated. I wanted to be focused. I didn't want anyone to sway me. So the lack of friends, the lack of events, the lack of things was a massive welcome thing. And I loved it, I enjoyed it, and I did not feel lonely. I was thankful for this. So this is where this idea comes, where loneliness is more of a disposition towards being alone rather than like a problem, right? Because you can be alone and lonely, or you can be alone and happy. People that are constantly traveling with like all these friends, like 2-week lads trip to Greece, and by the end of the 2 weeks you're like, I never thought I could hate that guy more than I do now. Right? So, and then maybe you have the courage to travel alone. Like sometimes my flight got delayed or something and I lost like something and I was traveling alone and in Amsterdam and I had a great time. So people that learn to do things alone, like go watch movies alone, travel alone, they actually start to see this empowering side of being alone. And instead of seeing being alone as a problem, remember what we talked about? Being alone as a problem because you're so used to being with. You now see being alone as an empowering opportunity for you to bring mad focus. And if your disposition switches like that and you have something that you can dedicate your focus to, this then becomes the opposite of loneliness, which is creative flow and empowerment. Okay. That's one way. But of course, so Wanhee, you're saying become a workaholic. Is that what you're saying? Just become a workaholic. Focus all on your career. Yada yada yada. And die miserable and single and alone. Is that what you're saying? Of course, this is your next question. But this is not the right answer. You're not supposed to be alone, live alone, die alone. Unless that's your thing. So where do we go from there? You're focused on your work. Where do you go from there? Like everything, there's cycles. You constrict, you release. You constrict, you release. So you go through periods of alone time. I'm now going to call it alone time, that you're focused and you're just pouring your energy into something. And then, like myself, you enter another period where you naturally run out of that deep focus creative energy and you need more inspiration. And you need to be with people. You need to hear people. You need to hear their voices, smell other humans, not in a creepy way, but just be in the vicinity and be seen and see and hear and be heard. This is very, very important as well. So you go through these cycles. And I needed that too. So I would go on walks. I would, of course, have my family and certain friends that I talk to from time to time. And you will naturally enter a period of your life where being with, again, takes priority. But most people won't spend this alone time. They won't familiarize themselves with themselves by being alone with themselves. They will see that period as a problem. Oh my God, I'm lonely. I need something. Okay, I need to watch something, binge watch, or go out drinking and get drunk so I can talk to girls, or go to parties and events and sign up to this. I lost my girlfriend. Let me just get another one. Let me just go on all the dating apps. You're just running away from loneliness instead of familiarizing yourself with yourself. But let's suppose that you did that period. Then you got to go out again and you got to meet new people. All right? Now for the practical side. So understand that if you're in this period, there's going to come a new period where you're going to meet new people, right? Give me a second. All right, we're back. Got my chicken dinner now, so I'm going to have to wrap this up. So how do you actually deal with loneliness? The first step was we realized that loneliness was deeply a human condition. There's nothing wrong with you. It's normal. Second, we realized that if you can actually familiarize yourself with being alone and get deeply engrossed in something that you really love, you can see being alone as something empowering rather than falling into loneliness. But we also realized that this period cannot last forever. You're not going to become a workaholic and die alone. You're going to have to find people, meet people you're going to have to be with again. And naturally, you go through these fluctuating cycles of aloneness and being with. So let's say you enter this new period. You're like, okay, it's now time to meet people. What do? You're going to have to accept some period of friction because you've been in your man cave for too long. You're going to have to open your vocal cords. You're going to have to get out there and actually engage. And there's going to be some rustiness, especially if you're not social in that way. Let's say the dating way as well. But basically what you got to do is just have more occasions where you can meet people. And I think the biggest difference for me between my 20s and my 30s in this way is that in my 20s, the meeting people would be more important than how I meet people. But in my 30s, the how I meet people is more important than the meeting people. What does that mean? In my 20s, I just wanted to meet girls, right? I just wanted to have best parties, house parties. So it was just like, the point is to meet women and to meet like friends. So it's like, go to events. Where are the people? I'll go there. Like the party, Now, as I started valuing my time much more, it's like, and also just being having gone through that life, I don't really go out anymore. I don't really go to clubs or bars, things that I used to do a lot. Like, I'm not searching out for these DJs and events and stuff. I don't even get FOMO about those now. Like, you see these DJs on Instagram and these raves, I'm like, even if I see a hot girl there or anything, I just get no FOMO about it. Because now I'm like, I want to meet people in a real way. I like meeting people in my jiu-jitsu gym, not women. In fact, I don't think there are many women in my class anyway. I like meeting those friends that I meet in jiu-jitsu because they do jiu-jitsu and they were cool dudes. Like, some of them make music, some of them are like cafe owners. Like, it's really a cool group. We went out and had lunch after like almost a year of training together and just small talk. Like, it took a year for us. And then eventually we went out and had lunch. It was really great, and we feel much closer now. That was cool. So sport was a big thing. So meeting people based on what you would do anyway. All right. I also met people based on content. Right. So I create content. So I met people to discuss ideas. Some people were talking about collabs, things like this. I meet people through my work because I coach people. So these are things that I would kind of do anyway. And the how I meet is now more important than the who. Not the who, but the meeting itself. So I would say, depends what period of life you're in. If you're in your early 20s, you're trying to just have a good time, then you want to just go to people where you're going to meet a lot of people, right? Your events, your house parties, your clubs, your this and that. But maybe if you're closer to your 30s and you're like focusing on your work and stuff, you want to try and increase those contact points, but around the things that you would already do. That would be my advice. And look, that's it for today because my chicken dinner is here. I gotta go. If not, I would have gone into, how to actually talk to people and the social skills aspect. Maybe we'll leave that for the next video. How to actually, like, when you go to these venues, how to talk, how to actually make friends, how to attract the ladies and so on. We'll leave that for another time. Hope this video helped in some sense. Let me know in the comments below. See you next week. Bye-bye.